Ovation TV had a hearty chat with Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, the eldest daughter of the charismatic former president Jerry John Rawlings in Accra, Ghana. A medical doctor by training, a philanthropist at heart. She's representing the National Democratic Congress (NDC) in the forthcoming parliamentary election as she's set to represent Klotekole constituency. Even before she became a parliamentary candidate, Dr. Zanetor Rawlings has always been in touch with the people, helping with community projects, facilitating jobs for members of her constituency, and even organizing a football league for the youth.
The question for me always is, why are you alive? What's your purpose? And if you find yourself in a position to be able to make a difference to people's lives, to help with things, to empower people, then you have a duty to actually do so. I'm passionate about what I do. So for me, that's the thing that drives me. It's just knowing that this is something that uplifts a community or uplifts society, and that's pretty much it, really. In many ways, it's what actually pushed me in that direction, because I was already doing a few things along those lines, but not in mainstream politics, and following a lot of consultation and investigation. It's important that one recognizes that one doesn't have all the answers, and that's why consultation is important, because you seek advice, you seek counsel to add to what you know, and sometimes you might have a blind spot that you didn't know about, and having a different person offer their opinion or offer their advice can help you actually recognize that there's something you don't even know about, and it helps you to be better informed and build a better strategy or a plan. And for me, that's why I'm talking about consultation, because it was an asking, just seeking advice, and then of course, praying about it. Then I finally made the decision to go ahead, because it seems that sometimes it's easier to bring the resources necessary for community change or empowerment together when you find yourself in mainstream politics, because then you have access to more than you might do in
individual
as an individual.
capacity.
Exactly. If you can use the Odo River as one boundary, okay, that's the boundary on the western side, and then it goes all the way down. It cuts across Graphic Road to Nkrumah Circle area, and then the southern border of that would be the Atlantic Ocean. So all that extending right through Official Town, Adabrakau, that whole area, through Art Center, all the way to Osu, to the boundary of La. Okay? And then you make your way up, and the ring road is the northern boundary, more or less. Under the major headings, sanitation, employment or unemployment, whichever way you want to look at it, are two of the big ones. And then, of course, there's the skills development and education aspect of it. But if you go down to the community level, as opposed to the big titles, what I like to do is I like the communities to say what the problems are, because you can't know better than someone who lives in a situation what their situation is like. So what we've done as a team is to map out the constituency based on the problems, and the problems are either related to the environment or related to the people. If it's people, are you talking about the aged who need more support, or are you talking about a large number of youth who need to be employed, or who have not done well enough in the exams and need to be either trained in some kind of skills or helped with repeating certain exams, that kind of thing? Or is it a case of certain areas where they need more facilities, like they need street lights in certain areas, or they need the roads to be repaired, or in some areas the markets gets flooded when it rains. It's a low-lying area, so how do we manage that so that people's food and whatever commodities they have aren't getting destroyed each time it rains. It really depends on which area you're in. But flooding is a huge
problem.
Yeah. It was interesting because even though we did not see him as often because he lived in the castle for most of the time, and we lived with my mom and my siblings. We lived separately and occasionally with my grandmother. It was a case of each time he was around, it was more of an impactful interaction, where there was something new he'd share, or there was some new skill he would teach you, or something like that. Interesting. It was interesting because you saw him from a distance through the eyes of everybody else. And occasionally, it was up close as well. It wasn't until we were a lot older that we actually spent a little more time with him, which would have been during the NDC period, because it was a different era pretty much. The pressure was there, the pressure was there because you were supposedly an ambassador. So whatever you did was looked at in terms of, you're either doing something that's going to say, okay, his children are okay, or look at them. Look at the way they're behaving, and it's reflecting on him as well. But I'll say my mom had a huge role because she was the constant and she was the disciplinarian in the family. So it was an interesting experience where you went to school, you were aware of your background, but you didn't get the preferential treatment. It was my choice actually. I always had this interest in healing, and if there was something, I'd be the quick one to go and get my first aid kit and so on and so forth. It was just as a result of my interest in it, and it just grew, and so that's why I went down that path. Initially, I remember wanting to join the Air Force, but
because of Daddy.
He taught me how to fly, so I actually enjoy flying, and I would have really liked that, but it's there again in consultation. Seriously? Yes, I do think so. I think we certainly do, because women have a different approach in general towards dealing with various issues, whether it's the economic issues or whether it's issues of conflict. And in general, women have an outward-looking approach in terms of, how is this going to affect the family, the children? How will it affect the community? How can we manage our resources so that as many people can manage as possible? I always give the example that, if you give a mother a small amount of money, she'll find a way, and it's supposed to be for the household, she'll find a way of managing her resources so that she can put food on the table for the children. And ultimately, we need people who can look at our communities in terms of whether it's a company or a business or even a household, and about managing resources in such a way that you have a happy household, and a happy household happens when you have healthy people who are well balanced, who are in employment. All of these factors come together. So it might sound a bit facetious to say a happy community, but it's just a way of pointing out all the different factors that come into play to make a human being more content with his or her existence. So yes, definitely, I think we need more women on board. And I think the more women we have in mainstream politics, the more we will see a shift of events, or the shift of attitudes, towards women in politics, because there are a lot of issues that I've faced along the way. I can't give all the examples, but a lot of these issues would not have arisen if I were a man. You know, so it still brings us back to that point that we need a lot more work to be done in terms of, you know, gender sensitization and giving women that equal opportunity.